All right, cool. We're live. 1 second, guys. Alrighty. Welcome to my live stream. Extreme live stream. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about some good topics. One of them was the source of all evil. The other was the let's see. Oh, there he is. Cool.
Here I am.
Yo, what's up, bro?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well, pretty well. I just want to change the layout. Let's see if I can change the layout here. Okay. I think this is pretty good. I like this one better. Okay. Kind of. Yeah, man. So today, you remember the topics we're going to discuss?
Source of all evil. I think you mentioned hypocrisy. You want to talk about some of the spiritual stuff we touched on last night as well, I think.
Yep.
Regarding the flood and things like that.
And also George Soros and all of them and their evil plans and their plans for the world domination and all of that shit.
Yes, of course.
Oh, yeah. So what were your topics that you wanted to bring to the table?
You know, honestly, I usually just come here and talk about whatever people want. So,
yeah. Speaking of people, actually, what you should do is don't send them this link to this necessarily, but they should get the YouTube link to my YouTube channel so that way they can watch from there. Because I'm not sure if StreamYard will have so many people in the comments, and I'm not sure what happens if like a bunch of people join or whatever. So.
You want to send me that link? Maybe I can switch that up on my page real quick.
Oh, yeah. 1 second. Yeah. So generally that's what I do. There's 2 links that I give people like that I want to go live with, like you. I send them the live stream link, and the people that I want to watch the stream I show them the YouTube channel link, and they can find the video there.
Gotcha. Sorry.
That's cool.
I never used live stream or yard stream before, so
yeah,
just kind of getting familiar here. Okay, gotcha. I'm going to switch that on my page, so hopefully the people go to the right place.
Hopefully, but it's okay. I'll just tell them where to go if they do anything fucked up. So anyway, the subject. So the first thing is I want to talk about the source of all evil. What do you think the source of all evil is?
Talk about a deep topic.
Yeah.
Well, there's all kinds of layers of questioning that goes into that. Like what even defines what good and evil is?
That's right.
That's a big question that I don't think a lot of people are willing to ask, especially those who come from a religious background, which, by the way, I was never like religious, but I grew up in a Christian environment, so I'm very familiar with the way people think in that environment, and I study other religions as well because I want to understand what people think. And often people's idea of what good and evil is defined by whatever they're told there, whatever they grew up with. And I got to a point where I heard a lot of people telling me what's good, what's bad, how I should live, how I shouldn't. And I just don't take that and run with it. I'm like, okay, where'd you get that from, and why should I heed what you're saying?
Exactly. That's the biggest question that people that want you to follow a dogmatic way of thinking, especially religious folks, don't want you to ask. It's why and how. They don't want you to answer those questions. They don't want you to ask those questions because they know they don't have the answer.
Yeah, and people become comfortable with their answers. So from that level, even though that's not how I am, I'm very open. I'm willing to consider like the crazy sounding stuff, but I do understand from one standpoint why someone would be afraid to question something that they've become comfortable with over their whole life, whether that's the idea of who our maker is, salvation, that's a big one, their religion itself, and also this topic of good and evil. I'm on a huge journey right now asking and seeking to answer a lot of those questions for myself. I want solid answers. I would never want to lead anyone in the wrong direction, especially as it pertains to their relationship with who made us and their eternal destiny.
True.
Anything that I say, I'm always going to say test it for yourself, study for yourself. And that's not to sound cliche. I've always said that. None of us
Exactly.
can just take things and run with it.
Sometimes the most cliche sayings are the most true, you know?
Sometimes, yeah.
And it's like, and it's the reason why a lot of stuff becomes so cliche is because it's like basic truths that like people tend to forget every now and again. So
Yeah,
like what goes up must come down. It's like, yeah, but it's cliche but true, you know. And the source of all evil, I think, will most likely be just humanity, right? So regardless of how you might define evil, right? I think, in my view, you're good if you understand that the powers that be in the world today, that good is weaker than evil inherently, and evil is stronger than good. Because if you look at it, good always has to overcome. Okay, what's the righteous people always have to overcome whatever evil is bound, whatever evil is afoot. Just like now with the New World Order and all that, and the UN. Clearly, the good guys are the small ones. The good guys are the underdogs, right?
yeah.
So as long as people's definitions fit into that, then I can understand. I can understand where they come from. You see what I'm saying? But if their version of good is some kind of master evil genius type thing, like the UN and Bill Gates and all that, and like neutering people chemically, like Bill Gates is doing, and Planned Parenthood, then they're gonna have to really explain to me, because to me that's evil, no matter how you flip toss and turn it.
Yes, you're going in a direction that I like, that aligns with some of what I'd like to say. I feel that the creator or creators, I personally believe there is a single source or being who is above all things, who made us and this world come to be. That's not to say that he didn't use other beings to, you know, play different parts. That's
Let me
another.
ask you this: do you think that creator had a creator, or do you think that it was a first creator, or did he have siblings or something like that?
Personally, I believe he's self-existent,
Uh,
and that is a hard concept to grasp, I think. But when it comes down to it, I think there is a self-existent being or source that caused everything beautiful and good to come to be. And I think you know, he chose to make other beings, both of the unseen realm and of this realm. And he wanted a family, basically. He wanted to build something beautiful. And you know, one of the aspects that he gave those beings was free will. And unfortunately, some used those free will to become filled with pride and think they were more fit to run things than others. And that's where we had certain corruption and arrogance and dominance over other people be introduced in this world, from where I stand.
right.
Um, Now, backing up just a little bit about the source of good and evil, I think the one who caused us to come to be gave us certain instincts, not for no reason. And you were just touching on things like Planned Parenthood, like Bill Gates wanting to neuterize and literally slaughter billions of people using his toxic crap.
Yep.
There's certain things that I think we as humans are just born and wired with, to know if I do this, this is wrong. Or when I think about doing this, or I start doing this, there's something that feels off about it. So like if a human being goes and wants to take the life of another human being, because he has the possessions that I want, so I'm going to take him out so I can take his stuff, or whatever it is, whatever the reason. There's something that feels off about that, I would imagine,
Yeah.
to anyone who starts committing that action. If you go and
That's why I think in every society around the world, one of the number one laws they agree with is not to kill. Okay, not to kill unjustly. So that's one thing that's like universally in human moral code. Because if it's morally allowed in a society, society cannot thrive, no matter how many people are in it. If there's 100 people and anybody can kill as many people as they want, then you won't have a society anymore. So I think, in my terms, good and evil, and how I define it, is anything good is anything that helps the society thrive, and anything that destroys it or breaks it down, giving the societies less freedom or whatever, that's ultimately what's evil. So picture this: if 100 people were doing it, doing whatever you might be doing, it would that help or would that hurt? That's what I ask myself all the time, and that's what I base good and evil off of.
yeah, yeah. So there's things we can sense, and you're just talking about how does it affect people around us. Yeah, that's another great indicator too. If people are just
Right.
allowed to, somebody else earn to their property and someone goes and takes it without their permission, that's what we call theft. That
Exactly.
has a negative impact on someone else. I think it also has a negative impact on the person doing it too, because they didn't earn that. They didn't work for it. So there's basic things that I don't think are like, it doesn't take, as they would say, a rocket scientist, which isn't a term I really ascribe to for various reasons, but you know what I mean. It doesn't
Yeah.
take much to understand these things. I think we're built with instincts, and humans are not animals. I think we're, in the sense that we're not a dog or a cat or whatever. But you look around, you see all these animals, non-humans, who are built with certain instincts. They just know pretty much from birth what to do that's good in their interest for the survival of their species, etc.
Right. I think
What's
humans have a
what?
level of that knowledge too. It's just that we get so brainwashed with modern society that we tend to forget. So I think we
Yeah,
have a little bit of that too now.
yeah. So it's like, what's to make anyone think that humans, who, regardless of what people have to say about all the flaws and mistakes that humans have made, humans who I think are the most brilliant, obviously brilliant creature in the world, don't have that as well. Now, yes, we have intellect and we have emotions and different things that make some things a bit more complex as to how we go about things, but at a base level, you know, I think it's not that hard to understand what is good to do and what is not good to do in terms of how we survive, what's good for ourselves, what's good for the people around us, what's good for our families and our households. There's
Exactly.
there's destructive things we can do, and there's non-destructive. There's building things that we can do.
That's precisely my view on it. So the next topic was what was the second topic? Let's see. See, I always have it written down or something similar to that. Next topic is oh, I'm getting a error message. Okay. So the next topic was about George Soros and his evil plans for the and people like him and their plans for like world domination and all of that. I know it sounds cartoonish, but man, it just seems like it's just happening. It's happening. It's a cartoon, but it's happening. Okay,
Yeah,
just like GTA. If you ever played those games, I stopped playing it for a while, but Grand Theft Auto, they would make like little parodies of like Western society and like have little politicians that'll be a joke and like shit like and snacks and stuff.
yeah.
That's reality now.
I never played them, but I've seen clips of them. Yeah, it is reality and
Exactly.
beyond.
Oh yeah, and it seems like more as time goes on. Okay, yes, and so, as time goes on, it seems like the rulers they want people to have to behave a certain way. They want people to do X, Y, Z, but they themselves don't want to follow those rules. Then what you have happening is stuff like what's happening now, where people think they're waking up, but in reality, they're just asking for more government. They're just asking for a stronger military power, like the UN in China.
And all this goes way back to the beginning of time from where I stand.
Yeah,
What we're
definitely.
seeing today, I think, is the fruit of an ancient religion that was dealt with thousands of years ago. It's changed form in society and technology and stuff, but it's still the same thing at the root, where there's certain people who gained knowledge. Other people didn't have that knowledge, so they viewed them as stupid, and so they wanted to govern them using the knowledge and the intellect that they gained. And
Yep.
some might even make the argument that, well, maybe everyone out here is stupid and they're the smart ones. Maybe there's something right. Maybe it is right for them to cull the populations. But to me, that's dangerous thinking.
It
Like,
is.
yes, a lot of people are stupid. Let's just say it. A lot of people just take things they should not take.
Most people,
Nevertheless,
I say like 90% of people are fucking stupid.
unfortunately, that's probably accurate today. But nevertheless, regardless of how stupid someone is, none of us own another person.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We do not have the authority, which people really need to understand what the word authority means. Author, it's authorship. Do
Right.
these other people, if you can even call them that, who wear suits and ties and sit behind their Roman Catholic pillared Capitol buildings and make bills and world policies and stuff, who just decided they're better than us, do they own us? Do they own you? Do they own me? No, they own nothing. They authored nothing. They are just other human beings, yet somehow this illusion has been created that because they sit in their buildings, they wear suits and ties and make policies, somehow we have to do what they say. Well, no, we don't. And that includes just them not being able to decide when we die or when we live. Now, they may take life, and they do in mass, but
Yep.
from where I stand, they're still going to stand accountable for that, and they know it, and they know their time is short, and they need to do as much destruction as possible to take as many souls with them as possible before their time is up. That's the stance that I take to the spiritual slash physical realms that we deal with. Because make no mistake, it's not just physical. There are
Yeah.
forces at work in a realm that I think we can't see, and they affect the people running these things, the UN, the so-called governments who are just a Luciferian cult posing as a government. It's all spiritual influence. These
It's
people are working with dark forces that, people aren't born just wanting to take out billions of people. Somehow they get there. And there's some dark influence at work that have brought these people to where they are, that they just want to wreck everything beautiful and not let
exactly.
anyone just exist.
Yeah. Whatever happened to live and let live? Because last I checked, the people who go on and on about live and let live are exact opposite. That you say something opposite of what they think, and they want to ban you from existence. They literally want to remove any kind of job you might have, any kind of living you might make. And that's not a sign of live and let live. They're the same people who say, "Oh, you judging homosexuals, but what does that have to do with you? That's none of your business." Okay, but why? I'm conservative in my views. I have morals. I believe in X, Y, Z, and you don't. But yet you attack me. What happened to live and let live? You see, that it doesn't. It only applies when they want it to apply. That's the
Exactly.
hypocrisy.
Yeah, and you notice the areas where what they preach doesn't apply usually has to do with things where people are just a fan of what is obviously natural. We were just talking about instincts. Well, biologically, I'm pretty sure we can figure out what's natural and unnatural there too. So it's
Just by
like,
just by looking at biology. What matter what perspective you come from, you can come from a scientific perspective, a religious perspective, a spiritual perspective, and you can clearly see, regardless of how you see the world, what is natural and what is unnatural. And the
yeah,
100 genders is not natural. Homosexuality not natural. Unfortunately, transgenderism isn't natural, and men acting like women and women acting like men isn't natural. Yet these are the things that's popular to push and believe nowadays, which is insane.
yeah, and sometimes your mind just wants to go. It's like, do we really have to have these discussions? Like, it's not hard to figure out biology, people. Like, and I was just talking about how humans are the most intelligent, but animals don't have a problem figuring this out. They know exactly what to do.
Exactly.
So it's
We're
like,
so intelligent. We're so stupid too. Because to be so stupid, you have to have a brain that's functional enough to be stupid. So you can't be retarded without a fucking brain. And that's what humans are. We're also the most retarded species, as well as the most smartest.
well, can be.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah,
you, and this is not to be offensive to anyone who's like physically retarded, but
yeah.
what we need to understand about the word retarded is it means like it's like a slowdown. People can
Exactly.
intelligent or people who otherwise could be intelligent can choose to slow down their intelligence, to not study, to not do the work to dig, to not understand things, to not use logic. And unfortunately that's the vast majority, at least in Western culture, of what people do. And they just take narratives, they run with fads, whatever the television or the politicians tell them to believe, they run with
Exactly.
it. And that's how we get cults running things.
Exactly.
But
And it's like they don't really want freedom. They want to feel comfortable. And that's a trap. Me and you talked about that earlier. That's a trap. Comfortability is a trap. Okay. What's the price of freedom? If the price of your freedom is comfortability, it's just being comfortable, then there's nothing. It's like comfortable and conform. They're like literally like almost the same word.
yeah, comfort has been used to seduce people into being non-aggressive in the good way that it's to be aggressive. The good type of
Exactly.
aggressive is, I'm a man, I want to build a family. The good type of aggressive is, you're getting in my face and you're trying to run my life. That ain't going to happen. Get out of my face, or I'm going to make you get out of my face.
And the good
That's,
kind of aggressive is I'm sticking to my beliefs, I'm sticking to my morals,
yeah,
and you destroy that, and you see what I'm saying?
yeah, conviction. Where is
Exactly.
conviction? We got an awful lot of parroting, but you don't hear conviction behind it. You just hear people getting on soapboxes wanting to be morally superior. It's like, what's the value in that if you're speaking something that's going to mislead and damage people? Like,
Exactly.
be careful with what you say. Anyway, To get back to what you were saying about George Soros and all the things happening now, though, from where I stand, we're dealing with, again, spiritual forces, and I think the being Lucifer is legit. I think that's who these people serve, and he's the master of lying, the master of chaos and confusion. So how does the system best dominate people? They cause all kinds of chaos, all kinds of confusion. There's all kinds of truths that I think we're so disconnected from, which is why my studies in part take so long, is because there's so many things to unravel and undo where the system has caused confusion, hidden knowledge from us, all kinds of things. But, while people who care about truth are digging, they continue to try to cause chaos to keep people away from the truth and focusing on what the core issues actually are. So if you start
Exactly.
asking, for example, what's the origin of all religion, you start touching on what the system's all about. And to them, they don't want people looking at that. They don't want people knowing that, hey, they're just other people who gain some knowledge and think they're better than everyone else now.
Exactly.
Make no mistake, I'm a huge fan of intellect. I love using my brain, and I encourage people to use their brains as well. And I use mine an awful lot. But intellect is not something that we're supposed to worship. They
Exactly.
worship. The system worships their own intellect. They think they're smarter and better than everyone else, and so they treat everyone like cattle. And that's where we get, the entire world virtually has been shut down over something that literally did not exist. Coronavirus.
Exactly. That's what I said. At the drop of a hat, society can fall apart over nothing. It doesn't take a meteorite or a nuclear bomb or anything like that. It can literally be absolutely just words, just hearsay, and the world can shut down everything.
All the news had to say was there's a pandemic and people believe it. I mean, to me, that's insane. But the system is incredibly evil and horrible, but they are not stupid.
Oh
To
yeah.
to get things to a point where they can just say something like that and literally shut down the entire world, that's invention of evil. That's like insane. It's
Exactly.
not stupid. They're smart. They know what they're doing. Um,
That's the thing.
so
Evil people tend to be smarter a lot of the times. I hate to say it, but everyday people who just so happen to stand up for evil and not know it, they're stupid. They're standing up for evil but not know it. But actual supervillains tend to be the most smart. They tend to be the most smartest, most like you said, they literally worship their own intellect and they know they're super smart and they take advantage of that. And
yeah,
that's surprising me because I'm like, when I was younger, I was naive enough to think that maybe like intellect is good and that smart people are always good. No, because if you look at nature, right, the smartest animals are the ones that eat the other animals. The dumbest ones are the slowest herbivores and all that. It's like the smart ones are the carnivores.
they were
And you got to
animals invented as or created as prey animals. That is true.
exactly. So you got to think, maybe it is the maybe sometimes these predators are the smartest because you got to be smart to be a predator. Okay, you got to chase down an animal. You got to be smart and to trap them. You got to be smart, but to eat leaves, all you got to do is walk up to it and munch it. It doesn't go anywhere.
Right. And unfortunately, that is how the system views anyone who is not them. They view people as cattle, as grass grazers, basically, just available to be killed for the resources at any time, leached off of during their lifetime. So, Black Lives Matter, the protests that we're seeing, it's just all the same racket. It's the same stuff over and over again. They caused chaos with coronavirus. That narrative started falling apart. So I think they really wanted to enact martial law with that. If not this wave, the next fake wave. And the narrative started falling apart. So it's like, well, how else can we enact martial law or keep the martial law thing going, the police state? Well, let's make some protests and turn it into riots so that people start begging for the police to come on the streets. And already the news stories show up. Polls show that people want the military to be deployed to the streets to stop the rioting. Yeah, right. The news, again, all they have to do is say something, and it makes it sound like that's what people are begging for. Another example, coronavirus. All these stories about the race for the cure and the vaccine, they make it sound like people are begging for the vaccines. Yet if you went, for example, to the comment section of Bill Gates' Instagram page, people are ripping him to shred, and it's obvious people are not begging for a damn vaccine.
Exactly.
So, you
They
know,
can literally say anything.
and then, so yeah, back to Black Lives Matter. The news, all they have to say is that every white man's the enemy, and then you get people that peep at each other's throats, and they don't evaluate anyone on their individual character. They also get a bunch of black people on television, and then, as you and I talked about last night, they bring in their provocateurs to start spray painting crap, breaking
Yep.
windows, starting rioting and loots, so that they can say, look, anyone who talks against racism is bad. But all the while, they're keeping people busy with this white versus black stuff and keeping people distracted by the riots. But nobody on the news is talking about this real systematic racism. And I'm reviewing what you and I talked about last night for other people to hear. Nobody is carrying signs exposing Freemasons, Skull and Bones, the Illuminati, the Order
Exactly.
of Death, the Knights Templar, who still exist today in the form of things like the Scottish Rite. You got these
Yep.
buildings sitting around, and I'm not afraid to talk about this stuff. You know, it's not exactly the most popular in some people's mind safe thing to talk about. I don't care. This is the root of the issue, people. We've got an ancient religion who has all these flavors, Freemasonry, Illuminati, whatever. You know, and they're the ones pulling the strings. But you see people carrying strings exposing that stuff, pointing out
Exactly.
the Freemason symbolism that's all around us on the Capitol buildings, on the podiums, everywhere you look, and logos even. It's everywhere. Anyone talk about in public the Rothschilds and how they supposedly meet with Lucifer and get instructions from him in their very house and don't leave that house because that's what they do in there and that's the center of the cult. Anyone talk about that? No.
Nope.
Instead, we're talking about arguing about these superficial things that every white man is bad and that every black person is a victim. Make no mistakes, black people have been huge victims throughout history. But
Yeah.
again,
Exactly.
are people talking about the ones who invented the systems that has resulted in millions and millions of their deaths? Planned Parenthood,
Exactly.
vaccinations, Bill Gates going to Africa and paralyzing, maiming, and slaughtering tens of thousands of children at minimum, and now wanting to do that elsewhere and do that to everybody here. Are people talking about that? Some people are. But those are not the types of people you're going to find on CNN, on Fox News, and all these stupid
Mainstream
corporate
media
media.
bullshits. Exactly.
So,
And they call people who know the truth crazy, right? Because I mean, yeah, it sounds crazy, but that's the thing though, because their plans are crazy. If their plans were like normal, believable stuff, but their plans are literally like world domination cartoon type shit. So of course it sounds crazy, but that doesn't mean it's not true.
right, and that's the sense that I get from people when you start talking about the New World Order and the fact that there are people who want to take over the world. Again, like you and I were talking about, they've, I think, on purpose associated that kind of thing with cartoons, fiction, Hollywood movies. So when
Exactly.
people think of, or when you say to somebody, there are people at work who want to take over the world, they just think of a cartoonish like villain being like, we will rise to power and take over the world, which sounds impossible, but it's not. They're doing it. And it's called government, it's called the United Nations. Whenever,
Exactly.
whenever you hear words like sustainability, unity, and community, these are these candy coated words that go around preaching at everybody, but what they're really saying is let's pull everything together under the same central control. Unity is bad, people, in that regard. You want to fend for your own household, your own families, and everybody needs to form their own family units and defend themselves and
Exactly.
not put up with this unity crap. Yes,
Exactly.
we unite in the sense that we support one another. We work, as we are talking about, for the survival of our species, all that kind of stuff. It's just base
Exactly.
level stuff. But when it comes to, oh, everybody needs to make the same low level slave ass income and everybody needs to be on and live in the same crappy conditions controlled by the system and monitored 24
And
7.
no borders.
Yeah, shove that stuff.
Because look, one of the biggest problems I realized about no borders a long time ago was if I hate living in a certain area or city or country or anything, if I just wanted to visit or if I wanted to move somewhere else, what could I do? I wouldn't be able to go anywhere because it'll all be the same. The only difference will be probably the climate, like literal climate, like the atmosphere, and even that's guessable because they could have weather machines. As far as I'm concerned, we could all possibly live in the Matrix. This literally could be the Matrix. It's very possible.
You know, the restriction on movement, travel, all that kind of stuff. It's just one of the many things. And I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed with myself that I didn't post more during this whole Corona crap because there's
Yeah.
so many things that I called just because I studied their plan that ended up happening. And one of those many things was, no, watch them try to restrict travel and place certain requirements on you to try. And already they were talking about certificates proving that you have been vaccinated in order to travel. They're
Yeah.
installing unconvinced along with the 5G microwave
And
weapons.
they're gonna have the fingerprint thing. I forgot what the name was. Where they're gonna have people. So they're gonna have a recording your fingertips, whether you were vaccinated or not, which will determine whether you'll be allowed to travel. Which is fucking crazy, man. Because the UN plans on having trains, high speed trains, go across the world. That no borders, no nothing, and they're just gonna have trains go across the world. Like a lot of the UN plans, people don't know about, and they're up to some no good shit right now. But it's just so crazy that people don't study the UN. People don't look into it. Like, what's the fucking point of the UN? And sometimes I think Hitler might have been right in that he wanted to stay separate from the UN. He saw it coming. Because think about it this way: if you look at the Nazi helmets, right? Maybe I'm crazy, but their helmets look like something from the fucking future. Like they look like our modern helmets, if you think about it. And maybe Hitler and his friends knew something about the future that we don't know. And people like Einstein could have been one of those individuals who could have been time travelers. If you think about Einstein, right? If somebody from the future, they probably would have been like Einstein. Einstein would definitely been one of those people because a lot of the predictions that he made actually came true. Predictions that he actually came true, right? So it's like, and he also predicted a one world government. I'm like, this dude is like, it was either he's from the future or he's reading the script. There's no in between.
Well, I think he was in on it and used for some deception. It's a trick that they use pretty often as well, where they will prop someone as brilliant, like Neil deGrasse Tyson or even Bill Nye the Science.
Yeah.
They prop these people up as brilliant and smart. But really, they're playing part in the deception, and they use word salad. Like if you,
Yep.
if you listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson talk, you could ask him a simple question. He's like, the philosophy and the relational this and that, he'll dance around and has all these words, but at the end of what he says, it's like, did he really just say anything?
That's a good question, but I think a lot of I give Neil a break sometimes because I understand that his point of view is he probably not allowed to say a lot of the stuff that he wants to say, but I think that I give him a break because in general it's like this man, like he has a way of saying things that'll get people to question their way of thinking, but at the same time he doesn't make any assumptions about what the person should or shouldn't believe. Like if you ask him about God, then he goes on along with an example of what God is and isn't. That way, so people won't feel personally attacked. Because let's face it, when you be direct with people, they feel personally attacked. But when you kind of dance around, you sort of they either stop listening to you because they don't want to pay attention to you ramble, or they start slowly question themselves slowly. Maybe this person has a point. So I see what you're saying, but I also see his side in that there's sometimes you have to be that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. I just think that at some point someone should have a concrete point, and there's major things that he argues that sometimes people ask direct questions on. Basically, it comes down to I don't know or something like that. If I don't know is fine. Like, just say you don't know, and here's why.
Exactly.
Dance around the subject is not something I like to.
Yeah, that makes people not trust you when you dance around too much.
But
And
anyway,
what's that?
go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, but yeah, I like giving my guests the time to speak most of the time, so I don't like to ramble on and on the channel because it's my channel and all that, so I have plenty of time to talk. But guests, I like giving them an opportunity. So, what are
Well,
the topics you wanted to bring to the table that have little to do with the ones that we were talking about before, or something else new that you
you
wanted to
know,
bring?
honestly, this round I didn't really bring anything. I just wanted to come on and discuss whatever was on your mind.
Oh yeah.
Enjoyed our conversation last night. Just thought we'd continue, perhaps.
Oh yeah. Yeah, another thing I wanted to mention was people with the Black Bloc thing. The Black Bloc is a anarchist organization, and they like set bricks up because make no mistake, where I live, I saw piles of bricks months before the vandalism and all that. So I mean, I didn't know what I was looking at. I was thinking maybe they're just constructing something, but who knows? Maybe they were planning on using it. I wouldn't know. But I seen piles of bricks pre the events, so it could have all been staged, could have all been set up. But
Mm.
I think that the black bloc have a lot to do with it because people are now talking about blackout. Okay, they're talking about blackout and all this. I'm like, they talking about black the race, or are they talking about the organization Black Bloc and Antifa? Okay, because their symbol is to wear black all the time too, and they're literally called the Black Bloc. And if you look on people's profiles, they post black squares, the black picture, a black box. I'm like, this is too much of a fucking coincidence. Too much of a fucking coincidence.
Yeah, there's also something else worth mentioning here is, I'm doing a lot of study on symbolism as well.
Yep.
Um, Black cube is supposedly anciently tied to Saturn worship,
Mm.
or things
Oh,
related.
like the Muslims in the Middle East, they go around that black cube.
Yeah, that's one. That's one of them. They go around it like the rings of Saturn. The UN, it looks like they have a black cube in their prayer and meditation room that they have in their headquarters or one of their buildings.
Okay.
But yeah, but look around. Seems to be tied to Saturn and or Moloch, which is an ancient deity that people would sacrifice their children to. Um, I'm still nailing down the details because they're just like anything deep like this. There's a lot of different stances and opinions and approaches to what certain things mean, but it does seem that this black cube has a significant place to play in what the occult that we deal with that runs the system is all about.
So exactly, and I was just reading that Saturn, it was the god in ancient Greece and Rome, was the god of wealth and like all of that shit. And I'm like, these people worship wealth and they worship power because that's what Saturn represents. And I'm like, this is too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these people really think that they care about black lives. They don't care about black lives. Their point, because if they cared about black lives, they would address black on black crime, which is what most black people die from. If they die from crime, they die from other black people doing it. A lot of people don't understand that, and they say it makes me Uncle Tom or whatever for saying that when it's just the truth.
Well,
In any community, the number one murderers are those people. So, but they don't talk about that because their goal isn't to help out the little brown people. Their goal is to have to pit this group against that group. And not only that, but with the names, you name two teams opposite colors, they hate each other, they go at each other's necks, and make some people feel guilty, and make some people feel like victims, and make some people feel like they're being attacked for being accused of victimizing, and then you just have everybody just going at each other's necks, and it's too perfect. It's too perfect, and it fits so well with so many agendas already in place that you have to be a complete utter retard to just not even see any of it.
yeah, it's just like the Republican versus Democrat stuff. People will hate somebody because they wear red, wear the red political colors versus blue. But if you boil down the content of what they're arguing about, a lot of times there's really like not a lot of substance there. It's just you're on the other side, and therefore
Exactly.
it's like what the heck is up with that?
Now,
Um,
I can't lie, I lean right on most issues because morally, okay. So if you think about like abortion and stuff, obviously I won't be if there's a liberal person, I wouldn't vote for a liberal if they're talking about killing more babies. Obviously, then I won't vote that way. If they're talking about taking guns away, obviously I won't vote that way. It's just about being strategic because I hate to say it, two sides of the same coin. Sometimes that's an overused phrase because a lot of the times that's not true because even two sides of the same coin have two different faces. One is the head and one is the tail. Okay, one is the ass and one smells worse, and the other is the fucking head that you talk to. Okay, and I go for the head. I talk to more people on the right because nowadays I hate to say it, but the left are literally out of control. If you disagree with somebody on the left, you're evil, you're a bigot, you hate gays, you hate women, etc., you're racist. If you disagree with somebody on the right, you're just stupid. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of issues we're dealing with. So it's like one side is there. It's good to keep them balanced, but when one side gets out of hand, you gotta tell them, hey, get back in line, act right, do what's right, and stop killing babies.
here's what I was explaining to someone recently who, one of the people who think Trump is legit, he's a good guy, he's there to drain the swamp, all that stuff.
Okay.
And one of the things that makes them think that is because things have gotten economically better. I don't think we can argue that. They were better than they were under Obama. But that is part of the strategy. The system has created two sides of the pendulum where they on purpose make things get bad, they make things get worse. They make things
Yeah.
get bad, they make things get worse. And one side, I think they have designed to attract a certain type of people or a certain mentality of people. The other side attracts the other. So yeah, the Republican / conservative side, it'll probably attract more of the slightly more level-headed, pro-life, unfortunately military supporting patriot types. The Democratic / liberal side will attract more of the, just fuck morale. Sorry, screw morality. I don't know if you can say that on your live stream.
You can. I don't care.
you know,
I don't get ad revenue anyway.
okay, well, good. It's like fuck all the natural stuff. Who cares about heterosexuality and what those people think? If they think that homosexuality is unnatural, they're bad. If they think that transgenderism is not good for people, they're bad. And they get irate about things and they want more government. Yeah,
Exactly.
I think the Democratic side attracts more of those. If you interact them, they tend to feel a little more mental too.
Exactly.
And is either side right about anything or everything? Of course not. This is what I've been trying to help people do for so long over the years. Just take every individual issue and analyze it for yourself. Forget these paradigms, forget the sides. They mean nothing. Because, I could say I am against abortion because it's murder. It's cold blood murder. You are torturing a baby in the womb. There's nothing right about that.
At all.
And people automatically assume, oh, you must be a Republican or a conservative. Therefore, you must also support the military. No, I don't.
No, that's not
I
necessarily
cannot
true.
stand the military. I despise the military for the same reasons. They carry out mass murder. They blow people up at their dinner tables, in their beds. They destroy their homes. They leave a bunch of orphan children running around these countries in the Middle East and everywhere else they go. What's right about that? Nothing. Screw the troops. The military needs to be called out and people need to stop supporting them. So because I am because I am against abortion does not mean that I fall in this category of people who tend to be against abortion but also support the military. No, because I disagree with them on that.
They assume that just because you agree with one thing, you agree with everything else, which they assume which people who agree with that assume and see you, oh, he's good, he's one of us, and people who disagree see you as being the ultimate evil just because you agree on one or two things, and they're both wrong. That's what they don't understand. But people don't. There's also a strategy that you need to have in place. I think when it comes to voting, because I think voting, a lot of conspiracy theories you might disagree, might say, oh, voting doesn't really count or anything like that. Well, that's partly true. You see, believe it or not, that's another way that they tease us, right? Is they make it count while they also make it not count. You see what I'm saying? It's like, yes, you can determine who might be the president. Yes, that might change a few things. For how long? Who knows? In the long term, maybe that doesn't do shit. But I do think that one day, maybe it'll happen, maybe it already happened, if we get a president or anybody anywhere important to say or do or get people in a certain mindset, even if they're not passing laws, if they get people in a certain mindset with their popularity or lack of that thereof to think a certain way, then that could be dangerous for the system.
Yeah, I mean, certain minute areas we might differ on. Personally, I think voting counts for absolutely nothing. It's just to keep people busy, to make them feel like they're playing a part in something. But
yeah,
I'm sure you know well that every president that stands up there is a Freemason pre-assigned.
Oh yeah,
and nobody's getting in that office who isn't. So
yeah.
Let's say that they even made voting count. You can choose between the Democrat and the Republican. Well, they're both Freemasons and they're both part of the same agenda. So even
or you can vote for a third party who's also Freemasons and this and that and the third. It's like,
yeah, sometimes they'll throw in these third flavors like libertarianism, and people think it's the rebel off, anti big government option. But first of all, they don't have a chance. Second of all, it's just more flavors to the same chaos. But here's the thing: it doesn't matter what you have in office, Republican, Democrat, they pop up. by the time the Democrats done, people are so tired of the wreckage they've caused that they're like, oh, give us someone who's going to improve things. So they put in a George Bush. By the time he's done, they're so bored by his boring rhetoric and whatever. They just feel bored. And so it's like, well, give us change. Change is good, right? Well,
Yeah,
change can be good or bad. So if your campaign is based off of just generic change, like what's that about?
exactly.
You know, that
Define
kind of,
change.
so they put in Obama, and people are so glad that change is here, and he wrecks things again. And by the time he's done, people are so tired of the economic depression. Like, give us someone who's going to fix stuff again. We're back to where it was with Bush, and so they put in Donald Trump. So, if we're even around that long, by the time Trump is done, what do you think they're going to be asking for?
Change again. It's just going to swing, especially in the 21st century. It's been Republican, then Democrat, then Republican, then Democrat, Republican, and Democrat. It's never just been like, back in the 1900s, it was way different because sometimes you get a streak of Republicans or you get a streak of Democrats or a streak of somebody else different or a streak of nothing at all or something strange. But now, because then, like, I think it was the mid 1900s, there was like a president who was in there for like 16 years, I think. Was it something like that, or 12 years? That was the longest the president's been in there. And I'm like, maybe, I don't know, maybe they need to reform this shit because I know it's not going to go away. You and I both know it's not going to go away. But to reform it, maybe that'll be the better idea.
Well, here's my stance on government and what it's there to do. From its very inception, it was always designed to do exactly what it's doing now. Be a system to govern people, to dominate people, to hog all the resources for themselves. People talking about fixing things from the inside. I mean, I've had family members. I have family members who were in the military. Family member who joined the military, and he claims that was one of his strategies was to go and change things from the inside. But all he's done is go there and follow orders like everybody else.
Exactly.
But here's the thing: if a system from its inception is designed for one thing, and that thing is corrupt and it's horrible and it's evil, you can't make it legitimate. It doesn't matter how many good people you put into it, you can't make it legitimate because that system structure is designed to dominate people. So the only way to fix it would be to shut it down and get rid of all of it. Really.
Exactly. But what would you start new? It's the question I must ask you. What would you start? What would you personally think would be the solution?
Well, understandably, that's one of the questions I get the most, and one of the questions I asked the most, and still do, of course. And I love it when people focus on solutions, but here's what I found. A lot of people focus on solving the entire big beast of a system that we're dealing with all at once.
I think that's kind of impossible.
But here's the thing. We started this conversation talking about our instincts, survival of the species, etc. How do we do that? Building strong homes that are self-sufficient. And what I've been telling people is disconnect yourself from the system in every way that you possibly can. You're going to have to interact with them no matter what, obviously, because they're a cancer, they're a disease, they're everywhere, they've got their tentacles everywhere. So you're going to have to deal with their interference in your life no matter what you do. But the most important thing that people can do is get yourself to a place where even if this entire control grid and system shut down, you could still eat, you could still drink, and you could still have shelter and protect your family. That's the key. Focus on yourself. And that's not selfish. That's smart, because you can't help anybody if you're starving. You can't help anybody if you're thirsting. You'll be dead within days if you don't have water. So solve those issues for yourself.
That's what I've been saying. It starts with the home. It starts with the individual. Then it starts with the home and the family and all of that. And then a group, because if you have a group of families that come along, what's that? That's a real community. A group of families is a community or a tribe or whatever, or a town. That's a group of families. That's what a town is. That's what a village is. And then after that, you branch out. But you got to start in the center. You got to start from the beginning. And that's with the individual. Then it's with the family. Then it's with the town. That's what I think.
And I think humans were designed naturally to be tribal in a good way. Tribal in a good way, meaning we, as men, we build our own family households. But sometimes someone else's family line or whatever will grow some food that we couldn't grow, or our crops didn't turn out that well. And so we trade with each other. Hey, I have something he wants. He has something I want. So let's trade. And we fight for it.
Or we fight for it. We fight them over it.
Well, some people do that, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, I think people were naturally designed with the hey, we all need to survive here if we're going to go forward as a species. So we're going to figure out smart ways to engage in commerce that doesn't involve centrally controlled currency or anything. It's just what do we directly need? What the
Yeah.
system has done is they've gotten people on an opposite system where we're all working for. Think about it. We work our butts off for very little money, and then that money in return purchases very little food compared to the amount of effort that we put in to get that money.
That's true.
Instead,
Unless you work a really high paying job that's very few people can even reach.
yeah, it takes your whole life, and oftentimes by the time people get to those positions, they're already old, worn out, and depressed from sitting in a cubicle their whole life or whatever.
Exactly.
So instead, people should be working the land and working directly for food because that's ultimately what we're after. So why does it make sense to people to work for somebody else, slave ourselves to death, just to get a little bit of money so that we can just take that money to the store to get what it's like, why not cut out the money middleman and just go straight for the food? Sustain yourself.
And if you want to trade, let it happen. You ever heard of something called the Venus Project?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. So tell me what you know about the Venus Project. What's your thoughts on that? What do you know about it?
Well, my interaction with it has mostly been just seeing random posts from them. So honestly, I don't know a ton about it.
I don't know as much as I could know either. But what do you know so far?
It's been so random that I can't even remember what the content of the posts were. So anyway, are they about what we're talking about? Basically?
Similar, right? So their whole ideology is this: that there's enough resources on this earth for there's enough resources on this earth for everybody, right? That's the whole idea, right?
More than you could ever use. Yep.
Yep, and that cities can and get rid of the currency system or something like that, and just go basically like off trade, like what you were talking about, and it's sort of like people call it a sci-fi or utopian idea, but that again, if it sounds utopian because what the world we're living in now is dystopian. So if things can become dystopian in a science fiction way, things can also become utopian in a science fiction way. That's my view. So they literally have like these giant buildings that can like that can be underwater in synthetic islands and shit like that, because why not make the most of the space you have? You see what I'm saying? Why not make the most of the resources here on Earth? Because people live on land. Why don't they live in the sea when the ocean is 70% of the surface of the Earth?
So the Venus Project is about these buildings? Or?
Somewhat, yeah. That's part of it. And that the resources on this earth are so abundant. No, there's no reason for anybody to starve. There's no reason for anybody to be homeless, anything like that.
Well, that part I absolutely agree with. Like water, for example. It's one of the most insane things I've ever heard when they are literally trying to convince people that we're short on water. Are you serious? We're the water world. There's water all around us. There's water in the air. There's water under the ground. But the water that we drink that comes to the land and makes everything live, it's made under the ground by oxygen and hydrogen constantly combining and then eventually seeping itself up. It never ends. It's literally, you'll hear the system talk about renewable energy. It ain't your windmills. It's the earth itself. It produces nonstop. You will never.
Nikola Tesla was talking about, right?
He probably did. But yeah, nevertheless, water never runs out. There is no shortage. Plants, they come with these wonderful things called seeds. They make more of themselves. Animals, they reproduce. They serve for food, for materials as well, like animal skins and whatnot. If you need to stay warm, it's like there's just a never-ending stream of resources in this world, and it was made that way. And one of the top ways the system tries to dominate and control people is by manipulating their minds into these created false scarcities, and they just don't exist.
Exactly.
It's called them hogging everything and keeping you away from the resources.
Like with diamonds, right?
Yeah.
People know about the diamonds, the beer scam. When diamonds are literally coal, just pressurized coal, like you and me, like we're just like literally just carbon, and it's literally the most common thing on this planet. Yet they try to sell it to people like it's super rare.
Yeah, it's crazy. We were just talking about the false scarcity. That's false value as well.
Exactly.
Same thing with their currency. The
Yep.
currency that they create completely no value except for the value people place on it. Well, if you find
It's
out
fiat currency. They think they call it fiat currency or something like that. FIAT
fiat,
currency.
fiat, yeah,
Yeah. Fiat currency. And it doesn't literally like it. They can literally just print more. Like literally, like none of it. Like literally, the whole value is just made up. It literally doesn't exist.
yeah, and that's
How can I get uh how could I buy a cow, right? I could buy a cow, say 400, $300, right? 600 maybe. Why does that price vary? Why, who decided that? There's it's all arbitrary.
yeah,
Okay? It's That's why inflation is made up. Deflation is made up. It's all just made up concepts. That's why no two countries on this planet have a 1-to-1 currency rating if they don't share the same currency,
yeah,
because it's all made up.
sure is.
And it's sad that no two countries can agree on how much a dollar is, which is insane.
Yeah, the whole currency system, bankers, swindlers, interest chargers, that's one of the systems of Lucifer, I believe, that goes way back in time. And it's one of the primary ones that's been used to control people. And it's successful. It's
Yeah.
successful. And I think the biggest way for us to fix that is to go back to what they pulled us off with using currency. And that's exactly what we're just talking about, working directly for food. Unfortunately, once again, because they decided a long time to use comfort to seduce people, people don't want to do that. It's easier in their minds to work for money and just take that money to the store where everything's already on the shelf for them. They don't want to work and get hot, sweaty, and dirty out in a field, tending to stinky animals and growing food. It's like, you know what? It's what we're designed to do, people. And if we don't do it, unfortunately, I think the system's dream is going to come true, and they are going to kill everybody because make no mistake, that is their goal.
Yeah, I think they're gonna kill, because once I thought about it, I'm like, maybe they will kill everybody, like the Georgia Guidestones said they will, because if you really give it some thought, think about it. If this system was to collapse and things were to go back the way they're supposed to be, they won't be like that forever, right? They'll go back to the way that they were. And then they'll keep going back and forth and back and forth from the natural way to the unnatural way all over again. Because what's stopping it from the world from going back to this chaos that it's in now? What's stopping it? Nothing. So if people go back to their natural state, it will happen again sometime in the future. The only thing that can stop that from happening again, or the only thing that can stop peace and people from being natural the way they were supposed to be, is killing off people, is killing people, is to eradicate large portions of the population. That's the only real way to solve it.
Which, of course, we don't want.
Oh yeah, of course not. But I think that that's just inevitable when it comes to certain types of rule.
The sad part is people might just do it for themselves. Like the system sets up the infrastructure for people to fail, and then the people let themselves fail by being addicted to it. People are addicted to comfort, to technology, to roads and bridges. You know, my roads and bridges. It's always about the roads and bridges. People are addicted to city life and nightlife and alcohol and all these things that seduce people into, it's just all right there. All the pleasure I want is right here. It's easy. I don't have to build the buildings. I don't have to pave the roads. I don't have to grow the food and raise the animals. We got all
That's why
these.
people move to cities where it's crowded and expensive, because it's convenient, it's comfortable.
And people think that's innovation, which it is, but is innovation always necessarily good?
Nope, it's not always necessarily
The
good.
things
You can innovate things that aren't meant to be changed.
Yeah.
Like you can innovate animals, for example. You can grow your own animals, right? You can in a lab. Okay, that's innovation. But what we've seen with dogs, right? What we've been breeding them for thousands of years, that causes all kinds of health problems for the dog, and they don't live long, and they can barely fucking walk and all that shit. Like, that's an example. We innovated them, yeah, but at what cost?
And now they want us eating lab grown food. Tell me how that's going to be good for the human body. It's not.
Exactly. Even if it could be good for the human body, why should we trust that they'll make it that way?
Exactly. Having a system of control determining what you eat, like that's the dumbest thing that anybody could do.
It's the most dangerous.
Most dumb thing that anyone could submit to, because they will determine what you eat, and at some point they're going to kill you. They're going to do it. Okay.
Exactly. Or they're going to alter your organs and your DNA make shit cause you all kinds of cancers and shit like that.
which they've already been working on subtly for decades now.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that people throw their medications and stuff into the water system, because the treatment system, because you can't get rid of that stuff. That stuff is in our water, and the
Yeah.
fluoride and all of that. So on top of all the other issues, you create more health problems for people. People fall for it, and they eat the junk food, and they eat unnaturally, and they eat unhealthy, and they eat the cancerous chemicals and the animals, and then they take the medications to cure them of that or to treat them, and then they dump some of those medications, or they shit, and that the medications is still in their stool, and it gets in our water treatment system, and while the shit gets filtered out, the medications within their shit and urine don't. So we end up taking in those chemicals too, and they end up fucking with our brains.
Yeah, and it's not just even chemicals and toxins. There's lots of estrogen in there. We're talking about the feminization of men, the masculination of women. That contributes as well. That's stuff that's in the water and the soil that ends up in the plants that people eat, the meat that people eat. It's just, it's crazy to me that you got all these people who run around complaining about environment and fake issues like climate change, acting like they're speaking out against the system when really they're demonizing people, the everyday people, but not calling out the system that if anyone is damaging the environment, it's them. Look up in the sky, chemtrails, there's hardly a day that you don't see them. They control the weather, they make the genetically modified plants and animals. They're the ones doing all the crap that's wrecking the environment that we live in. So if you want to speak about an issue, speak about that. Otherwise, you're very uninteresting to me.
Exactly.
Not you, meaning those people who
Yeah, I know.
about the environment but refuse to address the ones pulling the strings.
Exactly. Because they'll never do that, because they're part of the New World agenda. Make everybody eat plants. That's one of the New World agenda goals. Because with an animal, if you think about it, animals have a way of if you think about it, animals, they develop slower. Certain species, the animals we eat in America especially, they develop slower. So to change their genetic structure would take a lot longer. But to change the structure of plants, it's as simple as cutting off the stem and putting it onto another plant. You can literally create hybrid plants that way. It's so much more simpler to just grow plants that way than it is to genetically modify plants than it is to genetically modify animals. And a lot of people don't know that. That's why the UN wants people to go on a vegan diet, because it's easier to pollute the plants. It's easier to do that to plants than to do that to animals who clean themselves, who have a natural immune system. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the innovation on their part, the bad kind, is endless. But yeah, vegan agenda, a huge part of that, because they want everyone eating their crossbred, genetically modified, lab-grown crap. And of course, plant diet will make people weak. And look, I'm sorry, if people are not willing to look at the evidence of that in these vegans who even just after a few to several years start looking like a walking corpse, I don't know what to say. It's like people going to the doctor and trusting, and I'm not trying to be mean, it's just a fact. You notice that hospitals are filled with overweight, not very attractive, not very healthy looking people, and yet these are the ones that people are going to for health authority and health advice. Like, why would you want to take from them something that's supposed to make you better? No, it's the simplest thing people can do is learn how your body works. Just learn some basic biology, biochemistry,
exactly. And learn and trust nature.
Learn the nutrients that your body needs, and then eat foods that contain those nutrients as they originally exist. Not boxed foods, not processed foods. You know, the best foods you can eat are the ones that just come from the earth as they are. And the top of those would be meat. So.
Yep. And that's the most important part of hunting right there. It's hunting, because you don't have to chase a plant down. You know, like I said earlier, like that's why, you know, we got to get those guns, and we got to get slingshots, everything that can take down an animal, large or small, so we can eat them.
I have an image in my head of shooting a cabbage. Got him.
Vegan hunters. Vegan hunter breaks the news. Vegan hunter caught poaching rare lettuce. Oh God.
But yeah, the other benefit
like that.
What's that?
I might do a skit like that.
There you go.
That would be hilarious.
I think the other benefit to people becoming self-sustaining as well, though, isn't even just the fact that they'll be able to sustain themselves. I think it'll add a lot of peace of mind as well. Because gardening is therapeutic, and I obviously oppose the vegan diet, but I think people should still do that as a backup or grow the plants to at least feed the animals, that type of stuff. Just learn skills to make things that you can eat if you need to come out of the earth. Um, but that's very therapeutic. Being a garden, smelling the soil, it's like one of those wonderful things. Interacting with animals that you raised yourself and knowing they are going to, for the kindness of our Creator, one day give themselves for your nutrition. That's a beautiful thing. Um, that to me is a lot more peaceful mindset than, oh my gosh, what's the system doing today? Is the food supply threatened? Am I going to be
Oh
able
man,
to
they
get
out of
this
tomatoes at the supermarket. Oh
toilet
man.
paper? Toilet paper.
Exactly. Like and the cool thing about plants is anything like nature makes it so if you eat one tomato which grows from a single seed has 1,000 other seeds in it, so you can plant those seeds and then you get 1,000 more tomatoes which individually have 1,000 more seeds, and now you have millions upon millions of plants now, and it just multiplies, and it's just a self sustaining process. It's simple. They teach this even in public school about the life, what they call it, the how there's like the predators and all this, and like they even teach that right in front of people's faces, and they still don't see how you can be self-sufficient.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
it's crazy amazing. I mean, to say the Earth puts out endless resources is an understatement. It's just so if anyone talks about scarcity and the planet's in trouble and we need to do this or that to save the planet, ignore that crap. Look
Yeah,
at what the Earth. Just walk out your door and try planting something. Water it every day. See if it grows. If it doesn't, figure out what you needed to do to make a better environment for it. But chances are it's gonna grow, and like you said, you're gonna end up with far more than you started with.
exactly.
Um, and how people don't know this, well, that kind of blows my mind. But I'm sure,
Because most people are stupid. That's why they're stupid and they're brainwashed, which is a bad combination.
I'm sure a big part of that is the government schools, because our government's teaching people gardening, how to raise animals, how to make a homestead. No, they're
Nope.
teaching people learn the math, learn how to run the machines. Oh, and by the way, 9-year-olds, let's teach you how to masturbate. Let's teach you things that uh, really a child at your age is not thinking about yet, when you should be out learning skills for life and playing with toys. Like, this is the kind of stuff schools teach kids.
Exactly. So a lot of young men nowadays, I brought this up in our private conversation, but I also want to bring it up now, is that a lot of young men fall for that. Like us as young men, like men, we, especially boys, like they can't just follow instructions like that. That's why they say, "Oh, you have this illness or you have that illness," which may or may not be true. But it's funny that they always diagnose men with that issue, and I think it's because men, we naturally understand. We, unlike women, we don't just fall into people's rules. You see what I'm saying? We create our own, and we're used to nature's rule over us. If anybody rules over men, it's nature. Okay, it's the natural order of things. And men, we say, hey, we men aren't thriving in school, men aren't thriving at work. Maybe what's going on? Maybe we should return back to nature. Maybe we should do things the natural way again. Because I guarantee you, all those men struggling to organize the shelf at Walmart or excellent at hunting or growing shit. So it's like the system is, it's a system, not us.
Yeah.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying?
Well, that's a big part of why the system hates masculinity so much, because
Yep.
we're the ones designed to say, you know what, we're running our lives this way, and if you try to stop me, it's not going to turn out pretty, or I'm going to die trying to stop you. They don't like that type of insistence. They want everybody to be obedient slaves and turn out like the people who all the media has to say is, hey, here's a protest, and you got a bunch of people show up screaming and whining about things that aren't solving anything.
Exactly. Whining and complaining. What whining is none of that's going to do anything. Teaching people what's going to do something. Practicing what you preach is going to do things. Learning is what's going to do things. Is what's going to teach you. Learning how to grow, learning how to hunt, teaching people things, informing them. That's what's going to do things. Not going out looting places, just like you said. They ran out of tomatoes. It's the same thing. Instead, this time they're going straight to the supermarket rather than just growing it themselves. They're stealing right out the fucking supermarket. What do you need these big screen TVs for? You're just stealing them for what? 90% of them are broken anyway because it fucking vandalized.
Yeah, you got people running into shoe stores getting new shoes. Well, good for you. I guess systematic racism is solved now. Huh? You got a new
Still
pair of
doesn't
shoes.
solve shit.
You broke some windows at Walgreens. What? You know, I will say that I think most of that happens, or at least a big part of it, that is what triggers it is the government provocateurs themselves, like Antifa,
Yep.
the fake ass anarchist group, and all that kind of stuff, meant to demonize anarchists, people who don't believe in the existence of government. Yeah, they go there. An issue I covered years ago, 2014, Ferguson, Missouri. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was another cop shooting a black guy, and so the city of Ferguson, Missouri, went into the same type of chaos. It was all out tear gas and rubber bullet war in the streets. But at first, it was a reasonable, calm protest, and I think there were some legitimate people there. You know, and I think protests are useless for the most part unless you're actually making something happen and arresting and putting people on trial that need to be put on trial and hanging them. But, that stuff never happens. People go out and whine, then they go home and everything goes back the way it was. Anyway, Ferguson, Missouri, the same type of crap happened way back then. When people went out in the street, they whined, and they had a legitimate thing to protest, but what was solved? Here we are 6 years later doing the same thing.
Exactly.
And, it was, like I said, the Ferguson one was calm and reasonable at first, but they had provocateurs come in. They ended up burning down businesses, whatever. And so I just came out at the end and said, you idiots.
They ought to know from the time before that every protest that they do, there's going to be somebody there to make it worse. And I think personally, the people that were there for the right reasons at first, they're not now, because why would you go and protest something that's happened 1,000 miles away? That makes no sense. It didn't happen in your city. It didn't happen in Atlanta. It didn't happen in Dallas. This happened somewhere else. Why are you protesting something that has nothing to do with your city?
Well, this is the fake outrage that media creates. They will say on the news, I literally saw this the other day. I can't even remember what the story was. There's so many of them. I just cringe sometimes and don't even bother looking anymore because I'm just so tired of it. But some incident happened in some area that involved one person, I believe. Make no mistake, every life is valuable. I don't know if it involved death or not. But anyway, something happened and it said, "World in alarm." The entire world isn't really? Okay, let's test that out. Go through your neighborhood if you live in one and walk to 20 doors and see if anybody is aware of this story and if they're in alarm and shock. And all the news has to do is say the entire world is in alarm about something, and it seems like the entire world is, when barely anybody knows anything about anything.
Exactly. That's why I say if you don't watch the news, then your life will be pretty much the same as it's always been, okay?
It's nice not watching news. And I used to bury myself in it all the time because I'd be monitoring false flags like a hawk and teaching people how to analyze them and figure out how they're bullshit. And I'm glad I did that. But I got to a point where it's like, okay, I got to break away from it to some level.
Because it affects your mind too. This shit can drive you crazy if you're always submerged in it, whether you know the truth or not.
Well, and at the end of the day, we got to be productive for ourselves as well. And I can't,
Yep.
What I do and what I did back then takes a lot of time. So I kind of decided, I've taught you all how to analyze these things, I think, pretty thoroughly. So use my past content. I'm going to break away from this stuff now.
Right.
And, be aware of what the system's doing, the moves they're making, so you can plan accordingly and be wise. But at the same time, we shouldn't envelop ourselves in it so much that we're no longer productive for our own households and not actually working on solutions, which primarily involves being self-sustaining, as we were just talking about. There's an awful lot of information out there, a lot of people informing people, trying to wake people up. But at the end of the day, if we're not doing something constructive with that information, what's the point?
That's true.
So the moral of this entire stream is grow some food.
Yeah, pretty much. Or learn how to hunt. Do
Hunt, raise animals.
Exactly. Now, I prefer that over farming or hunting. I would prefer to hunt because it just seems more fun. Okay. Plus, you don't care about the animals. If you spend your life raising an animal, like you ever had a pet, and you spend your life raising an animal, you might grow to care about it. But an animal you hunt is a wild thing. Fuck it. You don't care about it. You didn't grow up loving it. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I love creatures, so part of me has been like, oh, I hope I don't get attached to a sheep or something that I raise.
Oh, I love this chicken. It's like, no, the motherfucker was $3.47. Well, real talk. If you want to start simple, Plants are super cheap. You can grow those yourself. But chickens, right? They're super easy to raise, and they're super cheap. Like you can buy a living chicken for like $3.49, real time, on like literally. And they're so fucking cheap. It's easy to do it, and you know where the eggs are coming from. You know what kind of antibiotics they're taking because you have the chicken, and you have total control over it. My grandpa, before he passed, he had a little tiny chicken farm. And he would those that will be his prime. That would be his only source of chickens. He would not get eggs from anywhere else. They would not get anything from anywhere else. And his wife, the baby used to be from the eggs used to come from there and all that. I'm like, wow, the kind of self-sufficientness that he had was insane. I'm like, what if his neighbors had cows? Then he would get milk from them, and he wouldn't need to go to the grocery store. If his other neighbors grew pumpkins, he wouldn't need to go anywhere for pumpkin pie. They could all make it in one spot without going anywhere. He wouldn't even need a car at that point. And I'm thinking it's all possible, and it doesn't even have anything to do with the government because they aren't stopping us right now. We could do it as it stands. Before the UN steps in, we can still take advantage of the land we have, and there's nothing stopping us. We could literally be self-sufficient. The government won't stop us. So a lot of the times, I hate to say it, but people use the government as an excuse. Oh, the big government's going to stop it. No, you can still do it as right now while you can.
Speaking my mind, bro.
Effort.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'm glad you brought up the chicken thing because that's a great way to start somewhere.
Exactly.
And at first, like, I wanted cows and everything because beef is awesome. But it's like, maybe start simple if you're going to go cattle route. Start with some sheep and goats or something like that. But chickens, yeah, that'd be a great way to start. You can eat them, but they also produce eggs, which eggs are incredible raw. Amazing food. Amazing.
Exactly.
Some people are scared of the raw thing. I was like, your fear about raw food, eating meat or eggs or whatever or milk, all that fear mongering comes from the government because they don't want you eating nutrient food. When you cook food, you destroy nutrients, especially the fatty ones, which are the most important or some of the most important ones you can get.
Yeah, because you need cholesterol for your brain. Your brain is made of cholesterol, so you need it.
There you go. Yep.
So that's like even more proof that vegans are literal zombies, like literally veggie zombies.
Yep.
And then it's like, and chickens. I like chickens. The chickens because like they're small and like with a cow. If you kill a cow, it's gonna take you a week to finish eating it, especially if you live alone, right? But if you have a smaller animal like a chicken, you can eat that shit within like a couple days, and then you won't have to kill another one for another 2 or 3 days, and it's so sufficient because they make so many more of themselves. It's literally you have more that you end up with so many you don't know what to do with, and you just be making all kinds of crazy dishes with an experiment, and it's just so fun to like be able to say, I know where my meat came from, I know where the eggs came from. I just want to be able to have a community where we all know where all our food comes from, and it's not impossible. It was easily done, and the government doesn't care about stopping us, and it's just no excuse at this point. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about in the stream?
Well, I just tell people what's really been on my heart is to tell people to start this now. Don't wait until the next fake crisis hits, because whether or not they'll do it with their narrative falling apart, who knows, but I think they probably will. They'll come up with another fake wave of this imaginary virus, all that crap. They won't talk about what's really the cause of people's symptoms, which is 5G microwave weapons. Yep. Now, don't wait until you're in the middle of another chaos, another government grab of power, which truthfully we are, but it's going to get worse. Start now. I was talking years ago about how at some point they want to shut down the internet. Free speech is an important thing to people, apparently. It was like, well, if you want to spread good information, do it now, because at some point they're going to try to take that away. And sure enough, they've been working on that for a while.
Oh, yeah.
With the shadow banning, the censorship, even 5G is part of that, because if everybody drops off home Wi-Fi and whatnot and everybody has to connect to their towers, well, they can turn anybody off at any point, and they'll have one network that they control all the speech. What I'm saying is people keep waiting until things get really bad to start believing the conspiracy theorists. Look, even if they sound crazy, listen to what the conspiracy theorists are saying now. Go analyze what they're saying, and if you find that the system has written a plan that says they're going to do certain things, eat it. Be smart. Prepare yourself.
That's smart to do because I remember just 10 years ago, mentioning the Illuminati, people will call you crazy. But now it seems like conspiracy theories, we're getting closer and closer to that age where conspiracy theories are commonplace and everybody believes at least some conspiracy theory. So we're kind of almost there. But will we get there before the worst of the worst happens? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I do think things will get worse before they get better.
Yeah, they will, because
Yeah.
of the system that we're dealing with. They will ensure that that happens. But
Yeah.
again, tend to your own household.
Exactly. Just start with your own household. That would be my message to the viewers out there. What would be your message, your final message before we go?
Well, I'd say the same. There's nothing more important than making sure that you can stay alive, your family can stay alive, and you can be healthy and well nutriated, because you're not going to be good to anybody, including your own household,
Wait a second.
if you are dependent on the systems.
That's right.
And
All right.
get right with your maker, get to know him. That's a big study. There's a lot of lies out there with religion and stuff, but to me, there's nothing that can convince me that intelligent design did not make all this beautiful creation around us. All I want to know is, how did he design for us to live, and I want to live that way. So that's what I encourage people to focus on as well while they self-sustain. Get to know your maker, because if you know the truth about that, that also adds a lot of peace of mind as well.
Yeah, it gives you that. It inspires the human spirit. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a good having you on the show, man. And if you wanted to, if you want to link your Cash App or anything like that, you can go ahead and send me that if you want people to donate or whatnot. That's what I normally do. Never get donations. You can, and yeah, this is good. I like having these kind of discussions, and I'm probably gonna have you on again, and I'll try to get some more guests on at the same time. It's been good having you.
Yeah, I'd love to do it again. Appreciate your dedicating your time to these things that matter. Love it.
Yeah, because I took a break from social media, but then I was like, you know what? I got to do something. I got to say something. I can't just be silent in these times. But yeah,
We need those sometimes.
yeah. Alrighty, man.
Thanks.
Take care. Yeah, no
Appreciate it.
problem.
Bye-bye.
Deuces. All right, guys. It's been a live stream about the truth, exposing things that we think may not be the case. So, see ya.